What do you do when you love where you live, but your visa says it's time to leave? Well, if you're living in Guatemala, sometimes it takes a little trip outside the country and then come back. It's called a border run. And today we're taking you along on ours. We'll show you why we chose Guatemala, what our border run looked like, what happened on the Mexican border, what we did in Tapachula, and what it was like to come back into Guatemala. So if you are thinking of living in Guatemala or retiring in Guatemala, stay with us. Because sometimes living your dream requires a little paperwork and a little drive in the bus. But before we show you what happened at the border, let me tell you why we chose Guatemala in the first place.
Your tongue when we're talking about what I need. Say what you will at the hardware store. Don't get you started talking about sports.
We moved to Guatemala in August of 2024 after retiring. And now, looking back, we know that moving to Guatemala was a great decision for us. When we first retired, we wanted to explore. We wanted to see exciting places, relax a little bit, experience different cultures, and enjoy what we like to call our golden years. So, why Guatemala? For me, there are several reasons.
Won't you talk to me?
Family.
I was born here. My family lives here. There is something comforting about knowing that if we ever need help, we aren't completely alone. I know the language and the culture, which is a huge advantage. Although after spending my working years in the United States, getting my Spanish brain back into local mode was definitely a process. I had to retrain my brain to speak Spanish like a local. And Randy, well, I am not the best Spanish teacher. Shame on me.
Ministry.
Before the plane tickets were bought, before the cars were bought, before the plans were made, we found a church, a bilingual church in Antigua, Guatemala, Iglesia del Camino, where both of us could plug in to a ministry called Celebrate Recovery.
I got my head in the clouds so high, feet on the ground, but I still get by. Rules were made for someone else to try, but not me, not me.
It's bilingual here in Guatemala, so that gave me the opportunity and the chance to learn a little bit more about the Spanish language, to become more conversant. Having community, no matter where you move on the planet, helps to make the transition much smoother. Friends, family, ministry, pastors, all those things help the transition into a new foreign country a whole lot easier.
Guatemala is beautiful.
And then there is
Guatemala is beautiful.
Look at the color on those flowers.
Look at that.
Guatemala is beautiful, really beautiful. Guatemala has an incredible variety of landscapes and climates. Packed into a relatively small country, you can find tropical heat, cool mountain mornings, forests, beaches, lakes, volcanoes, and some pretty amazing places to explore. We have a rainy season and a dry season.
Although sometimes the dry season doesn't seem to get the memo. If you love the warm weather, visit our coastal areas. If you prefer the cool, crisp mornings, explore the mountains of Guatemala and find out what they have to offer. And where we live, in the old city of Antigua, about an hour away from the capital, the weather is one of the things we enjoy the most. It's the one reason Guatemala has earned its nickname, the land of eternal spring.
For us, it makes sense that we live here. But there is a cost for all this beauty. And one of those costs is figuring out how to remain in Guatemala legally for an extended period of time. And that's where the border run comes in. Now, before we go any further, let me make something clear. We are not immigration lawyers. We're simply sharing our experience as retirees living in Guatemala. Immigration rules can change, and your situation may be different from ours. So always check the current requirements with the appropriate Guatemalan authorities or a qualified immigration professional. For us, the border run became a way to leave Guatemala and then return legally with additional time on our immigration status. The first time we tried the border run, we planned to take the bus from Guatemala City to Tapachula, but traffic made us miss it. With Randy's visa expiring that day, we had to quickly switch plans and drive our own car into Mexico instead.
We found the border process complicated, time-consuming, and involving lots of paperwork and permits. We eventually made it through, however. It taught us that the first time something is unfamiliar and feels difficult, like crossing the border, tying your shoes, or confessing your sins to one another so that you may be healed, but it gets much easier once you know what to expect.
This time, everything went much more smoothly. We knew where we were going, we knew what to expect, and perhaps most importantly, we weren't driving. We chose to leave the driving to a professional. When you download your form from the internet, you gotta make sure that you download the most recent form for your 90-day extension. Also make sure when you get an extension that you get the whole 90 days. I was aware today of that sometimes they only give you 30 days. So just make sure you have your 90 days and it's stamped and it's clearly stated that it's just 90 days. I assumed the first time that 90 days was 3 months, and 90 days is not 3 months. So make sure that you can count the days.
Count your days.
The government of Guatemala only gives you a visa for up to 90 days. So every 90 days you have to either go to the embassy, they extend your 90 days as long as you can prove that you're leaving the country in the other 90 days. So that puts you in every 6 months you have to leave the country. Randy and I have been doing this for like 2 years already, so we kind of know the process. And at first it was very stressful because we didn't know what to expect, all the paperwork, all the transactions that needed to be done. But after doing it a few times, I think we're comfortable enough to share them with you. We know that there's a lot of Americans or from other countries who want to spend time in Guatemala because it's so beautiful. Go to El Salvador or Honduras because those countries, I guess they have a very simple treaty with Guatemala, so they don't count as leaving the country to renew your 90 days. So the only choices are left is Mexico. Going to Belize is kind of an adventure. I would say we've never done it, but there is a way that you can go to Belize, explore the reefs, which are very, very famous. If you're on a budget, if you don't want to spend that much and you don't have that much time, you can still make it a little vacation. That's what Randy and I do every time that we come here to Tapachula. We choose a beautiful hotel with a pool, and we like to have some tacos and some other international foods. Very convenient and very, it's not expensive, really. So you can come and have a good time, make it a staycation, stay in your hotel, enjoy a beautiful room and enjoy some good food, and you can go to the pool and hang out. So we left Guatemala at 7 a.m.
Got to Antigua at 3:30.
Oh yeah, we left Antigua at 3:30 a.m.
Yeah.
A little bit too exaggerated, but we're happy that we made it to the bus station
On time.
way on time. But believe me, you have to do that because you don't want to miss your bus.
We arrived at the border between Mexico and Guatemala. We were directed to take all of our luggage and all of our belongings off the bus. After completing the necessary entry forms, we went through customs. They checked my bag, they checked my luggage, they checked her luggage. Onward we proceeded. On the other side, our bus was waiting for us. And from there, we cruised to Tapachula.
Really beautiful, handsome bus. The bus, it was 7:05 when it was leaving. And we made it to Tapachula around
4 o'clock, right?
3:30ish.
Yeah.
Between 3:30 and 4 p.m.
And then what happened? How did we get from ADO to the hotel?
We took a taxi. Very convenient. There's people there waiting for you. Well, you have to make sure you don't just trust anyone, just check them out and see who is trustworthy.
Tell me more about that taxi ride, Randy.
He was like a pusher. He was like a pusher for all the taxi drivers, and he had like a little float. Is that called a float? Float of taxis?
Fleet.
A fleet. He had his own little fleet of taxis that he was subcontracting with, I guess.
Our driver, his sole purpose was to scare the living daylights out of us, which he didn't really do. He was exceeding the speed limit by twice the amount, and within 3 minutes we nearly had a sideswipe collision. And he's the fastest. He was the fastest car on the street.
On the road, yeah. But don't get scared. It was just our luck, I guess. That doesn't happen every day.
So in my 4-year-old Spanish, I said, "Yeah, nice ride, good work. We weren't scared. We had no fear."
He does not know we come from Antigua.
Right?
We know
He doesn't.
we're tough riders. We like to stay 2 days because Randy doesn't like to be in the bus for more than 6 hours, 8 hours in a trip, sitting down. Yeah, so we like to stay at least 1 day so we can relax.
Yeah, what's the bus trip to Belize?
To Belize is about, it's long, 12 hours. I think it's 12 hours.
And Costa Rica?
Costa Rica, 33 hours.
On the bus.
On the bus. It goes all the way from Guatemala to Costa Rica. It goes through Honduras and Nicaragua. I think it goes through El Salvador too to get to Costa Rica. That's another option. If you have 33 hours to stay in the bus, the good thing about that is that you don't have to pay
For hotel.
for hotel. So you just stay in the bus. If you're young and you don't mind it. We had breakfast. breakfast included with the room, and after the stress of traveling, we were perfectly happy to slow down for a couple of days. And what do you do when you don't want to mess up your hair, your curls with a hat? Your husband brings an umbrella. Look at that. I have a professional husband, that's why.
No adventure to Mexico is complete without this special treat. While shopping, we made a friend who generously offered to take us out for a treat. Not a restaurant treat, not a fancy treat. We're talking about street tacos. Tacos de la calle, family. Tapachula. Come visit us. We'll take you there.
Okay, people, here we are eating, working on our microbiome
Working on the microbiome. It's a necessity.
with our friend Evelyn. Nuestra amiga Evelyn. But after living in Guatemala for a while, maybe our digestive systems have become a little bit more adventurous. Because thankfully we didn't get sick. And those tacos were worth the risk.
Another adventure in the books. And then it was time to head back to Guatemala. At the border, we sailed through the required immigration and customs process.
Very important instruction from the driver when you get to the border in Guatemala. Do not trust your document with anyone, even in any place. Do not trust your document. They're very helpful people who want to use your document for who knows what. So do not trust anyone. Make sure you exchange some money if you need to with wherever country you're going to exchange money. And they give you a convenient person that comes inside the bus and they do the transaction here inside the bus. You don't have to get out and go struggle to exchange money. What else?
Make sure you pray before you get on the bus.
And then, this was the moment that Randy and I have been waiting for. The new stamp, the whole reason for the trip. Another period of legal stay in Guatemala. And just like that, 8 hours later, we were back home in the comfort of La Casa.
There's also an option for retirees, which is the one that we are applying for.
Because we are retirees.
Thank you for hanging out with us in our border run.
Share your agreements in the comments below.
And remember, there's always another route to explore.
See you on the next chapter of Ruts,
Ruts and Ruts.
We love you, family. Come visit us.